We're with Secretary Madeleine Albright for her new book, Prague Winter. Your father, when he came to America, has an extraordinary legacy in which he's really can be seen as the mentor to the two first female Secretary of States, both obviously yourself, but lesser known, he was a mentor to Condoleezza Rice. Talk a little bit about the impact of your father then on American foreign policy.
Well, my father really was a remarkable man, a Democrat to his core. He became a professor and ultimately dean of the School of Graduate Studies of International Relations, and it's now been named in his honor. It's called the Korbel School at the University of Denver. And he affected hundreds of students in terms of bringing history alive and talking about the fragility of democracy. When he died in 1977, he was already pretty much a big deal in Denver. There were lots of flowers and things, and among them was a ceramic pot in the shape of a piano with leaves and things. And I said to my mother, "Where'd this come from?" And she said, "It's from your father's favorite student, Condoleezza Rice." She had been a music major. Her parents were associated with the university and took international relations from my father. He persuaded her to be an international relations major. She went to Notre Dame to get her master's and was writing her dissertation on the Czechoslovak military with my father when he died. So this African-American woman from Alabama, music major, was writing about the Czechoslovak military.
Well, one of the big questions I think that will impact this presidential debate is whether there is an Obama doctrine. And in the lead-up certainly to the intervention in Libya, it seemed like the war that you were very much a leader of arguing for intervention, Bosnian intervention, has become seen as the good war, in effect, that model. Do you feel that that is the case, that is increasingly being looked to by this administration as a model for going forward?
I think in some way, I think that, frankly, it took us too long to get into Bosnia, but one of the things that we learned in Kosovo was to go in and try to sort out what the tools were that the international community had. And what we tried to do, and it's very clear on the Libyan issue, and now on the Syrian issue, is to gather international support for what we were doing. That this concept of responsibility to protect or humanitarian intervention is something that the international community as a whole has to support. The problems that we had in Kosovo, I think in some ways are being replicated in Syria, which is we wanted a United Nations mandate. And the Russians made very clear that they were going to veto it. That seems to be something that's going on now. And there's an issue of how to mobilize the international community to have an instrument in order to try to deal with the problem. And so NATO is what President Obama worked with, which is the most powerful alliance still in the history of the world, and had international support for it. So I do think that there is that model of trying to solve problems some other way, using tools such as diplomacy and sanctions and a variety of ways, and never taking the force tool off the table and trying to do it through an alliance structure multilaterally, not unilaterally.
And you feel that's a durable model for the 21st century?
Well, I think so, because there's no, you know, Americans don't like the word multilateralism. It has too many syllables and ends in an ism. But what's really interesting about what happened in Libya was that the Arab League was there in order to, and the Gulf Cooperation Council, that we were not alone in it. What I think was the problem in Iraq was that it was unilateral. And we are still paying for the problems of that. And so I do think that that is a good model. Nobody wants to call it a doctrine, ever. That's something that's declared by history.
Final question, because it'd be malpractice not to ask a Secretary of State. Iran and the pursuit of nuclear weapons. What do you think is the right path to stopping Iran from becoming a nuclear power? And what are you concerned about if there were to be military action before the election, what the repercussions could be?
I think it is very important to make clear and sure that they cannot have a nuclear weapon. I do think that the process that's taking place is actually very interesting in terms of, again, a uniting of the international community in economic sanctions and kind of tightening the screws around the leadership in Iran and moving to talks. I think that it's the process that you want to see. and making very clear that no option or tool is off the table. I think that what I know about this is that the military option needs to be on the table, but it is dangerous because we don't know what the repercussions are. And the tools that the Iranians have in order to respond to it. So I would hope that this kind of international pressure and the talks would be the way to go. I am generally concerned about the proliferation of nuclear weapons, and I think it is the major issue out there that is going to have to be dealt with by whomever is in the next spots in all of this.
Secretary Madeleine Albright, thank you very much. Great new book.
Thank you.
Proud to win.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.